Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Miss Hoda and I teach Java programming. In this video we'll talk about array lists of objects. In the previous video we used arrays of student objects and we created the student class with three attributes: the ID, the name and the GPA. We have created the constructors, the getters, the setters of all attributes and the toString method. Today we will write a new section class that uses array lists instead of arrays. The new section has a private string number and a private string title and a private array list of student. Let's call it student list. So the array list is a Java class that comes from the util package. So you need to add the import for this Java class. Import java.util.ArrayLists. Now let's write the constructor that takes the number and the title, and we will add in the constructor the allocation of the student list. So student list equals new array list, and this will allocate our student list. Let's write the add student method. So public void add student, and the student has a name, ID and GPA. So we will make a new student, student s equal new student, ID, name and GPA. To add it to the list, simply we type student list dot add. That's it. We don't need to keep track of the number of students because the array list starts at 0 and expands with every element you add to that list. So when you add a student to the student list, the size will grow. When you remove a student from the student list, the size will shrink, and you always know the number of students in the list using the size method. Now let's write the display method. So we write public void display students, and we write system.out the list of students are, and we write the for loop for int I equals 0. I is less than student list dot size, and here we use the size method instead of the length of the array. Because the size is a method, we always use parentheses after it. We don't write it without the parentheses. And lastly, I++. So inside the loop, we get a student s equals student list dot get a student at I, and then we write s dot toString. So this is displaying all the students. Let's try it in the test program. I will create a new section. ns1 is equal to new section, and the number is 221. The title is programming 2 lab. Then the new section 1 dot, let's add a student. Add a student, her name is Mona, give her an ID and her GPA is 4. New section 1, add another student, her name is Mariam, different ID and GPA, let's say 2.7. Let's display new section 1 dot display students and see what will happen. So run, and my section has these two students, Mona and Mariam. So going back to the new section, let's display selectively the students with a GPA higher than a certain value. So public void display higher GPA. The value that we will compare to is value. Students with GPA higher than plus value. And here I'm going to show you another way of writing a for loop that is similar to this for loop, but it's easier to write. So it's called the for each. For each student s in student list, if s dot get GPA is greater than value, then system.out s dot toString. This for loop is pretty much similar to that for loop. Here we use the index I to go through the list position by position and get each student one by one and print that student to the user. Here we use another for loop called the for each student S in this student list. Give me student by student from this list. If this student has a GPA that is greater than this value, then we need to print that student. If not, then we don't care to print the student. Let's try to call this method. So the new list one dot display higher GPA. Let's display the GPA higher than 3.0 and let's see what will happen. Here the students with GPA higher than 3.0 is only Mona. The difference between arrays and array lists are the dynamic size. So an array list is dynamic in size while the array is fixed in size. That's it for today's video. Thank you for listening.